Hello everyone, welcome to the Total War Narrative Let's Play vote-in video. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but it does the job reasonably well anyway. Now, as the title suggests, this is a video about the upcoming narrative Let's Play that will be featuring on the channel, and an opportunity for you, the viewers, to decide which campaign you would like to see me do first. Now, the list of factions and campaigns are on the screen in front of you now, and in about a minute's time I'll just be going over the different campaigns to share with you some of my thoughts and ideas for why it's come about and what I plan to do with it, sort of. It's just like vague ideas at the moment. But if you're not interested in hearing about that, or you've already played the campaigns yourself and you know exactly you feel is going to happen, what you can do is go down to the video description of this channel, click the link there, and it will take you to the straw poll. Now, it's a multi-choice one. You can pick as many of them as you like, so pick all the ones that you think catch your fancy, or on the off chance you think none of them are any good whatsoever, go and just pick the bottom votes, but hopefully not many of you are going to do that. What will happen then is about Sunday, then I will sort of make a quick video with the winner, and it will be the game with the most votes, or the campaign I should say with the most votes. If there are, say, 2 or even 3 maybe, I don't know, that are pretty close, like 1 or 2 votes of one another, then I may decide on which one of those sort of appeals to me the most. But in any case, it'll be whichever one is going to have the most votes. I'll make a video announcing the winner, and then I'll get started on the narrative Let's Play. It should probably be about 2 weeks, so I do want to at least get the first 1 or 2 episodes done, and get it done to a good quality, as I'm still sort of stepping my toe back into this, so it's going to take a little while until I get into the swing of things. But yeah. If you're not sure which campaign you'd like to see, then stick around, I'll be talking about them now. Otherwise, go on and vote, guys. Click the link, and may the best narrative Let's Play win. So, at this point then, I'm presuming you guys are sticking around. In that case, thank you very much. And we'll get started with the Allens for Total War Attila. Now, for those of you that have followed the channel for some time, you may know that I did my own mini sort of narrative Let's Play on the Allens before, with the Tale of Two Cities. Now, unfortunately, that campaign didn't really go far because it sort of fizzled out. I'd lost the motivation for it back then. But it was a shame, because the Allens are one of my favourite sort of factions I would love to do a proper play on in the channel in the future. Because not only because they've got very unique units now, like when I last did it, I had to have a mod that introduced steppe troops from the Huns basically into the Allens to make them more unique. But now Creative Assembly have actually changed the roster, which looks really, really good. But it also appealed to me because the faction itself requires you to sort of settle in 2 different areas. One is Spain, and the other pretty much in the east, near the Caucasus Mountains. And I always like that idea that you have these people that are so separated by hundreds of miles, and yet establish their own empires there. But really like the idea of doing that, so I do plan to want to go back and redo it basically. There won't be no link really between what happened in the first one. Basically, it'll be a completely new story. It'll just be following the gameplay more than anything, I would say, rather than have a story objective in mind, so to speak. The next one's for the Empire Total War, which is a game which I took a while for me to get into, but I really started to enjoy it in the end. And the first is with the Knights of St. John. Now, I did do a Total War campaign with them in the past, and it turned out to be hugely popular. People loved it. And it was a faction that really appealed to me because I quite, it's the idea of knights and stuff like that, and it's the Knights of St. John in like the 1700s, a very cool idea. And what I plan to do is to make it more of like a crusade story idea. I like the idea of these knights launching like a crusade basically against the Ottoman Empire, their ancestral foe. I've got some ideas then to sort of expand the story from there, but I think that's a really cool idea, is to have this crusade, a small little sort of faction, this order of knights going up against the beast of the Ottoman Empire, this sort of David versus Goliath. I thought that'd be a really cool idea, and it was something I would like to do at some point anyway on the channel. Something a little bit different then is actually playing with New Spain. Now, New Spain, for those of you unfamiliar, is one of the factions you can find in the America map of Empire Total War. And basically, I think it starts off, if I remember, as a protectorate of Spain itself. And the idea is it's supposed to represent the Spanish colonies. And I quite like the idea of trying to do a reverse thing, like similar to like how the British colonies eventually became the, United States of America. I quite like the idea of Spain basically rebelling against its overlord and establishing itself as its own faction, its own, state, its own people. I quite like the idea of doing that and following its sort of attempt to try and become more independent in the light of the fact we've got British colonies, we've got the Native Americans that they're going to have to deal with, and that if they want to capture more land. I think it's a really cool idea and it's something I would like to do. So yeah, that's the second option. Third option. Number 4 then is Medieval 2, going with the Byzantine Empire. This is very similar to the Islands in that it's a chance for me to redo the Tale of Two Cities. Not Tale of Two Cities, The Phoenix Rises, sorry. The very first narrative Let's Play I did, and the most popular one out of the two, in fact. Now, I managed to get pretty far in it, and unfortunately I did lose the save game for it, which was hugely disappointing because I loved that series. And I do plan to redo it. I'm not planning to start it right from the beginning like I would with the Islands. I would probably start a few years in, and I will have a sort of a story reason for why it starts in a few years in rather than right at the beginning. But it would still follow the same basic idea of, re-establishing the Roman Empire by recapturing the former lands of the Empire and sort of go on from there. Then I think that would be a really interesting idea. And Medieval 2 in particular, I suppose, is because it does have the bit about how the characters actually change without necessarily you picking them. I remember Alexius Komnenos Doukas, my sort of Eastern general against the Turks. After a particularly vicious battle where a lot of his men died, he actually gained a trait that said it like he was really, what's the word? Not ashamed, but he was affected by the amount of death that was caused, and he was basically a part of because he was the commander. And it made it so, like, the story was going to change that he would become a governor of one of the settlements in the east, whereas Ioannis's younger brother, as he just recently came of age, would take over that front. I think it's just, I liked the story development of Medieval 2, so that'd be something I would like to go back and do at some point in the future as well. Assuming, I don't know, we'll have to see how this voting goes. So, switching games then to Rome 2. This is with Syracuse. Now, I've been a little bit inspired, admittedly, by Massalia Tales by Officially Devon. But the idea was, I was looking for the different ones, and I thought Syracuse would be a very interesting faction to play as. Their location, because I will be using Divide et Impera as well I remember to mention. But Syracuse is an interesting faction because its location is on Sicily, which has now made its own province in Divide et Impera. But it's also located between two giant superpowers of the Mediterranean. We've got Rome up in the north and Carthage in the south. In fact, you need to fight Carthage to regain Sicily, basically. And I quite like the challenge that might be involved with having, the small little city-state or colony, I should say, of Syracuse going up against these two big superpowers. Oh, excuse me. And seeing how the campaign develops from there, I think that would be a pretty cool idea. So that's something I wouldn't mind doing at some point as well. That's the thing, all these ideas are things I would like to do, just at different times, and as and when I can. So, continuing with Rome 2 then, is the idea of actually using the Augustus campaign thing for the new add-on that was done to the Emperor Edition. And I was thinking about doing it as the Iceni, again using Divide et Impera. My sort of reasoning behind this, I was quite intrigued. I remember coming up with the idea of to read in, who was it? Conan Golden's Emperor series about Julius Caesar. I thought it was a fantastic series. I completely recommend reading it. And I was talking, in one of the bits, he was talking about about the second invasion he did against Britain. And he managed to go pretty far before he went back in order to deal with, The Gauls rebelled basically, and it was led by the thing Vercingetorix, I think it was called. But I quite like the idea of, would the Britons have taken this line down? I quite like the idea of this one person who was maybe a child when this happened, grew up to really hate the Romans for the death of his father or something, and that hatred was so thing that he eventually sort of took over the whole, got the Britons behind him in order to invade Gaul and go up against the Romans. I quite like that sort of story in my head. So it'd be quite a bit of a challenge as well, with like the British faction going up against these highly militarized Roman troops. So that could be something interesting as well. Next one then is Shogun 2. Now I really did like Shogun 2, and I haven't played it though since I actually did the Otomo Let's Play on the channel. Oh no, I did do it for the Samurai personally with the Azu clan. But I was looking for the different factions, and I thought something that could be quite interesting to do is the Iko Iki. Because unlike the other like the other clans I should say, which are all like proper samurai families with the daimyos and that, from what I can gather, the Iko Iki were actually sort of rebels. They were peasants. They didn't have a daimyo. They do in the game to make it the same as the other factions, but they didn't actually have one in the campaign. I mean, in real life, all it was just these people that had a different faith, basically, and wanted to spread it, and they were persecuted by the rest of Japan. I quite like the idea of doing something like that with that, and maybe doing a role reversal in Japan, and make the people of the Iko Iki actually become, the dominant power in Japan. I quite like the idea of doing that. So that's, another idea. You follow it with the progression of this sort of peasant rebellion, so to speak. And although I've probably got my facts wrong, I do like Japanese history, but unfortunately there's a lot more thing with the culture and that rather than actual history. Need to develop that if I do this campaign. But yeah, that's something I would really like to do as well. So yeah, that's an option as well. The last two then is to do with Warhammer. Now these are ideas I have discussed about on my on the Total War. These are two ideas that I've been talking about on the Von Carstein Let's Play I've been doing recently, and I thought it'd be an opportunity to put them out there as possible suggestions. So number one is for Warhammer is Chaos. Now what I'm thinking about Chaos, and this was after speaking to one of my viewers, Robert, and what he was saying was matching up with what I was thinking already, had down, and that is the idea of doing a Chaos campaign, but without any legendary lords. So you're not going to see Sigvald, you're not going to see Archeon, you're not going to even see Kolek Stormeater. Is it Stormeater? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm normally so good, I'm terrible with names anyway, but I know a lot. Stormcaller, I think. Anyway, the idea is to actually do the campaign with just normal lords, because I quite like the idea of these lords eventually doing the job themselves, and like having maybe a different horde do different things. So maybe one horde will start pillaging, going into the Empire. Someone else would maybe deal with Nausicaa. Someone else will go off against against Batonia, or go down into the bottom bit in order to go against the Greenskins and the Badlands. To have a different Chaos Lord for each one, and I'll be using as well a particular mod. It's recently come out. I think it's called Chaos Unleashed, off the top of my head, but it's a very big mod that changes a lot about Chaos. It introduces the greater demons, like the Keeper of Secrets, the Bloodthirsters, and some things like that. It introduces demonic, demons as part of it. Very interesting mod, and something that could be quite a cool one to do. And like I said, focus on the stories of the individual characters, the lords, rather than actually one of the legendary lords. I think that'd be quite cool. The final one, really, continuing on the Warhammer, is something that came up as an idea after one of the loading screens. It had about Skarsnik, the leader of the Crooked Moon tribe, talking to an Imperial playwright about how he wanted a play basically being made as him being the best greenskin boss in the world. And I really like that idea. I thought it would be a cool narrative display idea. Maybe even if I was putting the effort in to try and make it a little bit more along the lines maybe of like Sigvald's one for Officially Devon, a bit more funny. Like goblins, you cannot be serious with goblins, you have things. So I don't know if I would take the opportunity to roleplay the whole thing, but I think it would be a good laugh. You don't, as goblins, you don't care if they die, basically. It could be an interest and a challenge as well, because goblins are not the best. You really do need to basically use tactics and swarm your enemy with, loads and loads of troops. So I think that could be an interesting idea as well, and just follow the playwright of Skarsnik, the best goblin boss in the world. Or Darworld. I might have to work on my goblin voice as well. But those are all the sort of narrative Let's Play campaign ideas I've got. So like I said, please have a look, pick out the ones you quite like the look of, and we'll have a look and see which one is going to prove the most popular, which one people would like to see at the end of the week. So yeah, thanks for sticking around this long. Thank you very much for listening to my random ideas and that about the different campaigns, and may the best narrative Let's Play win. Take care for watching, guys, and bye for now.